Hello, everybody out there, and welcome to Titanic Legacy, a podcast that explores Titanic's lasting impact through conversations with creative, interesting, and inspirational people who are authors, artists, historians, actors, filmmakers, musicians, entrepreneurs, and more, who continue to keep the ship of dreams legacy not just alive, but thriving through their creative work, hobbies, storytelling, and conversations. I'm your host, Paul Carganilla, and today I have the honor of being joined by a lifelong Titanic enthusiast, creative director of Titanic Honor and Glory, and researcher of for the 2024 Titanic Expedition. He's the creator and producer of the Witness Titanic Podcast and was my co-host and co-organizer of the third annual Titanic Anniversary on the Queen Mary. Queen Mary 1, I should stipulate, in Long Beach just a couple of months ago. Give it up for the one and the only James Penca.
Hello.
Hey, buddy.
Thank you so much. What a nice long intro I got there. That's very nice. Thank you.
Have to give props where props are due. You are, as you say, a lifelong Titanic enthusiast, and a thread that holds a lot of the Titanic community, I think, online together. I would say, in my own humble opinion.
That's very sweet. I think there's a nice little a subset of the community that knows you, that knows me, that a lot of them were on the Queen Mary, a lot of them follow THG, some Witness Titanic people. Like there's like a little crew going that I really enjoy, and I think we're keeping them all connected. I don't know about the wider Titanic world. There are some far-reaching corners of the Titanic world that do not know who I am, and there are people who know who I am, and they don't particularly want to listen to my podcast. So, it's a big world out there.
It is a big Titanic world.
And to quote Titanic the musical,
there are little pieces and chunks and slices and flavors of Titanic for everyone. Some people consume it all, and some are very particular about what they consume. But
exactly.
We are a couple of people who like to surround ourselves with good people, and we are surrounded by them right now in the live chat. We are live streaming on YouTube. If you're watching us on the chat, say hello. I see a bunch of friends from across the country. It looks like we got Greg DiNapoli jumping in from New Jersey, Seth Schaefer from Illinois. I got Eve Gryffindor from Texas. I'm sure that's a handle, but
maybe not. You never know.
It's true.
Congrats to Greg on the Knicks win. I know that's something that
was huge.
He cares about. Yeah.
Are you a basketball consumer?
Basketball is my probably the least sport that I consume the least, but I am a big sports person. Huge sports person. So, but basketball is just the one that missed me growing up, and I never got into it. But being that I lived in New York for 10 years, following the whole Knicks thing was very fun. And seeing like friends who still live there getting to enjoy it. Like while I lived in New York, New York has like 3 or 2 teams per sport. They've got so many sports teams, and not one of them won a championship while I lived there. This was the first one since I moved there. So I missed it sadly, but congrats to all the New Yorkers who got to enjoy that. Very cool.
The energy out there was fantastic. I was in town for the Tribeca Film Festival for games 1 and 2, and just walking by. We didn't go into any bars during the games, but just people everywhere just cheering them on, and it was super, super cool. But to kind of segue into being surrounded by
people didn't come here for sports talk.
Great energy and a common enthusiasm. We're here to just we've been talking about doing this for a couple of months now. Can you believe it's been 2.5 months?
That's crazy.
I think we had to take a step back.
Still living in the glow of it.
Yeah. Before we even get into talking about it, I'm going to play the introduction. Speaking of the glow, I love watching this video. I was thinking about it today when I was just getting ready for this episode, but it feels like Christmas morning when you just wake up. and that anticipation and excitement, and just going back and watching the opening remarks is just brings back all of the feelings of the
Yeah.
weekend that would unfold. And so I thought we'd just play it for everyone. If you're listening to the audio version of the podcast, you can see the video on YouTube on our Titanic Legacy Podcast YouTube channel. And I'll put the link to that in the podcast description. But for those of you here on the YouTubes in the live stream watching, I hope you enjoy these are the opening remarks from our Titanic Anniversary event on the Queen Mary.
Folks, we've been waiting 6 months to say this, but welcome aboard the Queen Mary. Yes. Today, we set sail on a 4-day voyage into history. No, the Queen Mary is not leaving her berth this weekend, but thanks to 6 authors, 3 survivor descendants, 9 actors from the 1997 film, 3 podcast hosts, 6 other content creators, 22 total guest presenters, giving 24 lectures, podcast recordings, movie screenings, and live streams. Thanks to all of that, we expect all of you to leave this vessel in a... Sorry, I cry a lot. I expected this to happen at the closing remarks, not the opening remarks. We expect you all to leave this vessel in a very different place than when you boarded it, and that sounds like a voyage to me. So, we are gathered this weekend in what was once the Queen Mary's first-class lounge/ballroom to commemorate the 114th anniversary of the maiden voyage and sinking of the RMS Titanic. To remember the lives lost that night and the lives forever changed because of it, and to show our appreciation for the men and women who kept Titanic's story alive in the form of books, movies, video games, and gatherings just like this one. I say all of this to remind you that yes, we are here to remember Titanic and the lives of those on board, but we are also here to celebrate a great story that brings us all together and that will bring us together for the rest of our lives. So let's please also remember to have a gross registered ton of fun as well. That joke is from my father. So my name is James Penca. I'm the creative director of Titanic Honor and Glory. We have our alpha set up over there for people to play later. I'm also the host of the Witness Titanic Podcast, and I was a member of the 2024 expedition to the Titanic wreck. I am one of your hosts this weekend. Your other host is...
Hello, everyone. My name is Paul Carganilla. I am just a boy who loves Titanic. I host a podcast called Titanic Legacy, and while the podcast space is already so saturated with Titanic stuff, mine really looks at the inspiration that is continuously just being pulled out and driven by Titanic, this ship that never completed her maiden voyage, and all the people who continue to write books, to create podcasts. I'm always just profoundly interested in the creative process, and I like to examine what lights people's hearts fire and what keeps it lit. And I'm a crier too.
This is why we get along.
2 years ago, I was invited to kind of mediate a talk here. The Titanic Book Club was putting together Titanic Weekend. We had a little much smaller room downstairs, the Mauritania suite where we did it. And I had such a great time. What really stood out to me and grabbed my heart was the people that I met. And I just had a blast sharing the space and time with like-minded Titanic enthusiasts. And when the Titanic Book Club said, yeah, that was a one-off, I said, no, we got to come back. So we came back last year. We were in the Mauritania room as well. And it was double the size. We had twice as many people in year 2. And then last year, I did a tour of the ship. And when we were in this room, I stood in the middle of the dance floor. And I just looked around and I imagined that one day we'd be able to have Titanic Weekend in this room. And that day is here. Oh my God. The stars aligned, and we're here in this room, and it's real magic. It's real magic here in real life. You guys being here, us being able to celebrate Titanic like this. And so thank you for being here. All the people I met for the first time yesterday were from out of state. How many of you are actually from California? So all the rest of you are not. That's amazing.
Who came from out of the country? Look at that. Incredible.
Wow. Incredible.
Thank you.
Let's get to know each other this weekend. Let's just have a really great time and just celebrate our love, our shared love of Titanic. And I love you guys for being here. Thank you so much.
What a day.
Take me back.
What a weekend. Yeah, I know. I truly, like, when you usually plan something like this, it takes over a chunk of your life. Like I've done rather large events, not Titanic ones necessarily, but some of them, yeah, Titanic stuff, like big events. And they take up your life. And by the time they're over, you're just like, oh, thank God. Like that was just so much work and so much stress. The day after this weekend ended, I would have paid somebody to give me a time machine just to go do it immediately again. I had so much fun. There was no bad vibes at all. And yeah, I'm counting down the days till next year. So that was great. And of course, and that moment in particular, I had literally no idea that it would be an emotional moment to start the event. But that's how it's a sign of how much work was put into it, that we both were rather emotional at the top because we weren't even close to finishing it, but it just took so much work to get there. So.
And for me, as I mentioned that story, I did like the ghost tour, but one of the stops was that room. And just walking into the Queen Salon after we had been in the Mortania room for a couple of days at that point, and we walked into the Queen Salon, and I just looked around and I started to visualize. And I was like, someday, if we could fill this place, oh my God. And then standing on the stage, oof, just getting the whole thing kicked off and remembering, like, almost exactly a year ago today, I was standing in this room, like envisioning us being able to be in here. And then there we were. And that just is what got me too. But
that's great.
Yeah, all good vibes, like you said. And that was the thing after I went to the very first one, what that the book club hosted was just like meeting the people and spending time in that historic ship with people who just shared a passion for something. And I was like, yeah, we got to keep this thing going. So I have to say thank you to you for helping. I mean, you really carried the torch this year, and you and the Honor and Glory team couldn't have done it without you, and all your help with the organization. And I say help, but you really did most of the lifting.
It was a pleasure, and I of course thank you, because to think that I could have done it by myself is absolutely not true. Did we need the THG guys? No. I'm kidding. No, Matt was very helpful, but no, I mean, it was a coordinated effort between us both. I would not have been able to pull off something so insane by myself. So I appreciate you as well.
And Seth says in the chat, just being on the Queen Mary with great people, we already have a party, and it's all the ingredients we need.
Yeah.
But I wanted to take an opportunity for people and put this on the website for next year to just kind of give you an idea of what to expect and what we got to enjoy this year and what we can hopefully, keep building upon next year. Let's just go bye. I was thinking about it. Can you believe I had to triple check the schedule? And I'm like, we filled 4 days.
Yeah.
We filled 4 days.
Honestly, we filled 5 in a way. Like like we kept referring to it online as like a 4-day event, the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. But the 10th was as full of a day for me, as any, because it was like the early bird thing, and really like arriving early, getting settled, go to the bar, meet people, like that felt. We had so much fun that first day that it felt like it was 5 whole days. It was incredible.
Yeah, but it went by in a blink.
Yeah.
as
So
they
sad.
do. Um, but the first, okay, let's rewind. So the Saturday, the 12th, our first after our welcome, we got to, and this was based on kind of a suggestion we got from the year before was, why don't we launch the weekend with a presentation about the history of the Queen Mary?
Yeah,
And so we were
makes
fortunate
total
enough to
sense.
have a fella by the name of Tim Baker, who has been a guest on my podcast recently because he wrote a fictional Titanic novel. But he used to work on the ship. He served as the chief officer, where he conducted extensive research and scripted the tours and events that preserve the ship's vibrant legacy. So he's, like a dictionary or an encyclopedia of Queen Mary history. And also, if you haven't heard the Titanic Legacy interview with him, pick up his book. He jumped first, Titanic Fiction. You can grab that on Amazon and listen to the story about it and hear us chat about it in that episode. But I was impressed by just the wealth of knowledge he had about the Queen.
Yeah, and for me, I know we both stared at that schedule for weeks. Like when we knew we had certain speakers. I mean, this goes like way back into the planning process, but we knew what speakers we were going to have. We had a couple of people like on the cusp of like, if we have time, we'll put them on the schedule, stuff like that. But just like the puzzle of where does this person go? This person can only do Saturday. Okay, so that's a Saturday person, even though I'd really love for them to go on Sunday. This person can only do morning. Oh my God, darn. This person refuses to go after lunch because they want to be able to eat lunch in peace and not be worried. Okay, fine, I'll put you in the morning. It was like that sort of thing. And we knew Tim was going to go first because of this Queen Mary thing. And to see, I've never seen him speak before. I had the utmost confidence in him, but watching him do the presentation, what a relief to know as a um, or an organizer of the event that, okay, thank God the first speaker is
Solid.
fantastic. He's
Yeah.
so funny and energetic, and the audience is like engaged. Because yeah, you don't want to start off with a bummer, and we didn't have a single bummer. Like the whole everybody was so great. Anybody could have kicked it off, but he did such a great job.
Yeah. And I hear what you're saying. And it's just like you're organizing an event and you haven't seen a speaker give a presentation, it's a wild card. And it's like,
Yeah. And
I
that was
hope
like 90% of the people who spoke. Like we don't know most of the people. So you really have no idea who's going to do well and who's going to ruin your weekend. And then no one did. No one did ruin the weekend, but you don't know. They might. Like they could technically ruin your weekend if you're
anybody
not
has the
careful.
potential, I
It's
suppose.
very true, and then like in particular with like our concert, well we'll get to that. I won't go off script here.
Following the Queen Mary history, we had some Titanic history from author Brad Payne, who's coming out with his second book, but his first book, 1140, Analysis of Evasive Maneuvers and Damage Assessment on the RMS Titanic, is out. That's been out for a few years now. If you want to pick that up, it's also on Amazon. But Brad is an author from up in the Seattle area, and he came down again, second year in a row.
Mm.
This year, he talked about his presentation was entitled Moving a Titan, the Tugs Behind the Legend. And he talked about the tugs, the Titanic's tugs. Did like that was a subject I had never even thought of.
Yeah, when he suggested because of course we ask all the presenters, what is your topic going to be?
Yeah.
I assumed he would have done something similar to the year before, which was basically his book, like some of the stuff from his book, like very like analysis of the moment and the maneuver and all that. And he said, "How about the tugs? How about I talk about that?" Like, oh, that's such a great departure from what I think people are going to expect. So it was perfect, perfect topic.
Yeah. Then we dove in from the historical aspect. We dipped our toes in the James Cameron 97 film, uh,
Gotta.
Flavor. And we brought up, it was great to meet her in person. I've had her on the show as a guest here on Titanic Legacy, but Alex Owen Sarno, who played Cora in the movie, Leo's best girl, she shared her experience on set with us, and that was just a joy.
Yeah, she was the person I was most excited to meet. Last year, we had so many people from the film, a lot of the extras and people who made big impressions on anybody who's seen the movie 100 times. You know these faces, but this is extra level. This is Cora for God's sake. So big deal to get to meet her. And my general complaint about the whole weekend was I did not get to spend enough time with anybody, any one
Mm.
person. Um, and Alex was one of them. Like I wanted to like sit and talk and pick her brain and stuff, but I got maybe two whole minutes with her before I had to run off and do something else. So, but she was great speaker, very fun to hear her stories.
And she shared an hour with Gary DeLellis, who played was Jack's stand-in, Leonardo DiCaprio's stand-in in the film, the production of the film. But he also got some screen time in the background of a couple of scenes.
Hmm.
But he got to tell us all about his experience as Leonardo DiCaprio's double, and talk about energy. This guy is just a ball of enthusiasm and happiness, and it's such a joy to anytime you get to share any time with him.
Yeah, he was another newbie this year that we got to meet, and that's always fun. And he brought a lot of cool stuff. In fact, oh, oh,
Oh, I have show and tell over here
I
too.
got show and tell.
I got
He he's
my
Oh, you got a
signed Gary
signed.
DeLellis photograph
Nice.
from him on the grand staircase on the set.
He let me take a printout of a call sheet, as an actor myself, a former actor, I guess I would call myself at this point. Never to be in movies kind of actor, but a stage actor. It's so cool to see a call sheet from the like one of the days. This is from Friday, November 1st, 1996. And these are all the actors who were called, what scenes they were going to shoot, what costumes they needed on, stuff like that. Very cool to have and read through, just the fascinating stuff.
He
So thanks,
also
Gary.
has these replicas of the matchbook that
Mm.
Jack throws to Cal during the
Oh,
dinner
sick.
scene.
That's cool. I did not get
Very
one of
cool.
those.
Oh, you didn't? Oh,
Yeah, I would
that's
love to toss it to people. Toss it across the dinner table. I would love to do that. Again, I didn't talk to like and same with the life jackets. I didn't get a picture with the life jacket on.
Mm.
I never had time, and that's probably my biggest regret is I didn't take a picture with the life jacket. So next year, I guess I'll have to do it.
We'll get to what he's talking about in
Yeah.
just a minute. So we had a little lunch break and came back for a presentation on rebuilding Titanic from Kyle Hudak.
Yeah.
Uh, you could best explain what his presentation
Yeah.
was.
Of course, Kyle Hudak from Titanic Honor and Glory and Matt Dwinkler from Titanic Honor and Glory both gave presentations. They were supposed to be switched originally. Matt was supposed to go first because he was designing Titanic was his talk, and then the next day Kyle was going to go and do building Titanic. So they kind of were a 1-2 punch, but we had to switch them last minute. Long story, but so Kyle went, and the fun story about Kyle is that he was working on this presentation. He took a train across country to be there. He doesn't like to fly, so he took a train from Chicago.
Okay.
And on the train, he worked on his presentation the whole way. And then for the whole night before he worked on the presentation, he worked on his presentation all the way up to minutes before. In fact, we actually had to switch. He was supposed to go earlier in the day, and we had to switch him with people so he could have more time to work on his presentation. For those of you who know Titanic Honor and Glory, this fits in very well with the general vibe of our success rate. And finally, he got up on stage, and it went really well. It was funny.
I
Poor
thought that
guy.
was going to end in misery.
No, he got it all together and got up there, and he finished with like a minute to spare. And then his talk was within a minute to spare as well. Like he really comes down to the wire, that Kyle Hudak.
No stress. The
No.
kind of people that carry stress around like Pigpen carries dust in the cartoons.
Yeah.
No, frenetic energy. But yeah, that was awesome to hear all the work that happens behind the scenes. And next we had our first Titanic survivor descendant, and we heard from Laura Decker Ward about her grandmother, Selene Alexander Yazbek, Titanic's youngest bride. And I I love Laura. I had the pleasure here on Titanic Legacy podcast of being her first public interview
Mm.
about this story because she had met Clifford Ismay on something that they were producing or they were part of a production overseas. And she was talking about possibly getting into, telling the story in across a bigger audience base. And Clifford was like, "You should talk to Paul." So she gave me a call, and but hearing her talk about her grandmother, this was her second year as well,
Yeah.
but her grandmother's story is fascinating.
Yeah, the generation before us, they got the survivors, like we were there are none left. And so when you're writing a Titanic book, they got to talk to the survivors. So we don't have that anymore. So we have survivor descendants. And so it's always fun, always fascinating to hear from them. Because it's as close as we're going to get to hearing it from the horse's mouth, as they say.
Just a side note, and thank you to everybody who's got the conversation going in the live chat. Gary Del Ellis is in the live chat, and he says he's got you, Jay.
Oh my gosh.
So next year. Speaking
Next
of
year.
spoiler alert, we're going to talk about before we say goodbye today, we're going to talk about the guests who have told me that they want to come back next year. But
Perfect.
next up was the legend himself, Don Lynch, and Judy
Yeah.
Preston. Judy, the author of The Journal of a Titanic Background Actress, Living the Legend by Judy Preston. And see, you can also get this on Amazon. And
Great
it's
title.
her journal of every day she spent on set of Titanic's film. She was a core extra, and it's a gripping read if you've ever wanted to know. Like, that's something I've said many times, but like, if I could have been a fly on the wall of James Cameron's production, um, gosh, give me a time machine and say you can go one place and be invisible, it would probably be there, um, or Titanic itself. But she and Don, of course, the legend behind Titanic and Illustrated History, and you could probably get that on Amazon too. But they gave
Sure.
a presentation, and it was kind of somber at the start because Ellen and Don and Judy, Ellen Moore O'Brien passed away this past year, and that those three were like inseparable at events when
Yeah.
you'd go and hear them speak. And so having our first event without Ellen was rough. Um, but Judy and Don paid homage to her and honored her just fantastically. And then also, talked about their experience on set at Cameron's film, Ghost of the Abyss, as well as Titanic with Ellen, which all three of them were in both.
Yeah. Yeah. Always great to hear their stories. And especially with Ellen. She was with us last year on the Queen Mary, and she was unable to join us, but of course she did, in spirit, I'm sure.
Next up was what you were referring to, the life belts. This was like a last minute addition that got
Yeah.
me really excited. Talk about how all this came to be.
Yeah, we didn't know. Ken Marshall, famed painter and Titanic visual advisor slash expert, what are all these great titles. Uh, Ken had agreed to do it. He just wasn't sure what he wanted to do. And I guess he might back out. He wasn't sure. Like, he was very much on the fence about it. And it was actually the fact that Stephen was coming, Stephen Proto, who's on the right there. He knew Stephen was coming, and Steve and Ken had kind of collaborated on this life jacket project. And I don't know who amongst them suggested it, but maybe they could join forces and do like a joint presentation. And that seemed to really get Ken excited for the weekend. And so it was sort of a last minute addition, but it was one of the highlights of the weekend, I'd say.
Absolutely. And just a side note, like, as a Titanic enthusiast, meeting Don Lynch and Ken Marshall were on my bucket list.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'd met Don, of course, a few years back and seen, gotten to see him a few times, have him on the show a couple of times, but I'd never met or spoken to Ken. So
Mm.
it was really neat to meet him on at this event, and I don't mean to rub it in, but I did get a picture in the life jacket.
See, that's the photo I wanted, and I saw this I think I saw this on Instagram or something after the weekend, and I went, "No," like, I kept telling myself, "Go over to the table, like, take a second and get that photo," because it's like so that we should explain, I guess, for those who weren't there Steve, um, one of his, like, passions and one of his projects is he recreates the life belts from Titanic. He's also, for either his own project or a separate person who asked for this, I forget what it was. He has recreated the life jackets from every Titanic film. So each movie, including the 1997 movie, which he in his presentation he mentioned this, and I had not known this. Every almost every Titanic film has a wrong design of the life belt. Like that's the correct one. That's the one that they had, and he has perfected it. I know Ken helped. He was able to recreate it based off of the very few that still exist. And they're fascinating, very cool. And he's gone through incredible detail to get this right using old photos. But this is from the 1997 film. They're not correct, but he recreated those, and he's recreated the life jackets that appear in each movie, and in each movie they're completely different and wrong and funny in some cases. But he's gotten the ink just right, and he's also made a distressed one that looks like it's been through a sinking and 100 years of it's just a fascinating topic. Talk about a cool hyperfixation to have. And he brought a bunch of the replicas, and anyone could try them on, and I did not. Bummer.
Along those lines, it's like my poster that I made. I had every presenter sign my poster that I brought to the event except you. I didn't get you. I got
Yep.
everyone but James.
I saw you walking around with it and a marker, and I told myself, like, "Oh, that's a great idea. I should have thought of that. Have everybody sign something." I've got my big deck plans signed
Oh
from
yeah.
all the crew members of the 2024 Titanic expedition, but I didn't think to bring a poster or anything. Little did I know you were expecting me to sign it as well, and I did not. I didn't
We
get her.
told you.
I was so busy.
I really tried to get you to sign it on the first day at the bar.
It's true, and I was eating at the time, and I didn't wanna get food, and I was eating a pizza, I didn't wanna get grease on the thing, and I was like, "I will totally sign that later."
I
I didn't.
appreciate I
But we'll
appreciate
get
the
there
care.
next year.
Um, yeah, so that was our last presentation of Saturday, day one, but it
Mhm.
wasn't the end of day one because
Oh, day 1 was a beast.
you had this brilliant idea to have a Titanic themed concert.
Yeah.
Tell us
Yes,
about that.
it was, an obvious choice for me because I come from a background of performing. I'm a musician, I'm a singer, play guitar, all sorts of stuff. And anytime I do any event, of any sort, if I can find a way to get some sort of music involved, it really makes things a lot of fun. And so I had planned we would do a concert. I would encourage people who were joining already to let me know if they wanted to sing, and we'd plan something out. And as the weekend grew closer, it just became more and more likely that this was not going to happen because I didn't have anybody who wanted to do it. Not that they didn't want to do it. I just there was so much going on. I think the concert was like my least priority. I thought worst case scenario, we won't do it, and everybody will just have a free night on the first night. But at the very towards the end, and the other issue was I couldn't find a pianist. I didn't know anybody who could play piano for it, and sorry, you can hear my dogs in the background. But we found a great pianist, and it all worked out. Played guitar. You sang with your daughter. It was gorgeous. We had a great time.
I was blown away by your talent. I knew you were a singer and I knew you'd done shows and stuff, but you killed it. And you brought like this historical stuff uh that I'd never heard before, and like storytelling in musical form about Titanic, and it was all fascinating and highly entertaining. Such a surprise, and I wish it was 3 hours longer.
I did not because it was very hard. Yeah, it was a lot because gosh, I'm so sorry if you can hear my dogs barking in the background. They are
No, you're
the
good.
worst today. Some of those songs are extremely hard to sing, and And so it was not easy to get through that concert. And I don't sing much anymore, which is a real shame. I sing still, like I sing in the shower, I sing in the car, whatever, but I haven't had to perform on stage singing high notes and doing the usual thing in a really long time. And like any muscle, it's just to just pick it up and sing these songs. It would just be like anybody who hasn't played sports in forever, just like go play a game of pickup basketball. Like you're going to be destroyed by the end of it because you haven't been doing it. So I definitely was exhausted by the end of that hour, but it was worth it. Had a great time, and maybe we'll do it again next year. I'll have to find more music though.
Well, you killed it. And Sam in the chat says you are a mega talent. Kat says the concert was such a delightful surprise. Seth says the concert was so much fun. I learned a lot and it stuck with me ever since. Gabe particularly liked the White Star Line March. And I think
Oh
he
yeah,
comments about going off to Philadelphia in the morning
in
on
the
pretty
morning,
much
absolutely.
every
I've seen him
Instagram.
post that. Yeah. Yes,
So that was
we
Saturday.
wrapped that up. Yeah, that was fun.
That was an epic day.
Yes, it was almost too epic. In fact, next year, I think we need to have it not have no days be that epic because it was when we were getting ready for that concert. I looked in the audience and I felt like, the first presentation was at like 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. or something, and we had 7 presentations. And of course, people went to lunch and they went to dinner. So by the time they sat down for that concert, it was just like, oh my God, what a long day. And you shouldn't have that feeling. It should be like, so maybe we'll alter the schedule a little bit next time and give people some more time to relax.
Oh, author Steve Hall is joining us in the chat. Hello, Steve. Thanks for dropping in from across
Hi,
the world.
Steve from
And
Down Under.
he's been on both of our podcasts, I believe.
He
Go check
has.
out that episode with Steve. Okay, so Sunday morning, our first, of course, there's the epic Sunday morning brunch on the Queen Mary. If you have never experienced it, you need to come to our event just to experience that. But while everyone was in a food coma after the world famous Long Beach Queen Mary Sunday Royal Brunch, we got a small panel of, before the big panel, of Titanic movie actresses to talk about Alexandra Boyd's documentary, Ship of Dreams, Titanic Movie Diaries, which is available on Amazon Prime to stream and a bunch of other places. And you can get the DVD as well. But it's a documentary filled with diary entries from people who worked on the film, mostly actors. And we had there with Alexandra, Linda Kearns, who played the Irish band leader's wife in the film. You hear her say, "Jesus, Mary, and Joseph," and you see her dead with frozen eyeballs at the end. And Judy Preston joined Alexandra, and they read from their diaries. And Alexandra made the announcement that next year she's releasing a book. It comes out in March, filled with these Titanic diaries from these actors from the film. It's always great to see Linda Kearns. It was her second year back as well. And then we rolled right into the big panel from Titanic. We had Judy, Alexandra, Gary, Alex, who we've already mentioned, Don and Ken, who worked on the film, of course, in their own right. And we had one of the model makers that worked on the models on the film as well. And I'm blanking on his name. Michael? I believe his name is Michael. And um, it was great. So we got to have an audience Q&A about working on James Cameron's film.
Yeah, I would have loved to have talked to the model maker. I'm a model maker myself. Of course, he was involved in much larger models than I've ever made. But yes, it was a nice group of Titanic '97 folks, and very insightful. I will admit I was in a bit of a brunch coma. The Queen Mary brunch is my Christmas every year. Basically, it's the best brunch ever. So I enjoyed myself, and I sat back and loved every minute of this presentation with a full stomach.
I loved it because, and I know his last name is Nikolai Vargas. I'm so sorry. I think it's Michael, but I loved having the opportunity to open it up to the audience I say it all the time, but one of my favorite things in the world and life is, being able to connect people in any capacity. And so giving the audience the opportunity to ask these cast and crew members from Cameron's film their questions was a thrill for me. And then we rolled right into our next survivor descendant. We had Tom Goldsmith, Thomas, as he is the grandson of Frank Goldsmith, who a lot of people have heard his tale, but so awesome. I've had his brother, uh, Michael, on Titanic Legacy here to talk about Frank Goldsmith, but it was it was really great to hear the story from Tom.
Yeah, there's a lot of goldsmiths around. I think there's another goldsmith as well that oh no, my camera. Hold on.
There's a ghost in the machine.
There we go. No, my camera just turns off every 30 minutes. It's embarrassing. So I'm such a professional podcaster. Yeah, the goldsmith story is great, and there's a bunch of goldsmiths around the country who tell the story, and I feel like now I've heard two, so I need to hear a third. There should at least be one other out there. Um, but yeah, always great to hear. And he had, I believe, a recording of his grandfather speaking that we sat and listened to for a little while, and that was pretty fun. That was very. It's always nice to just get that close to somebody and get to hear their own voice.
Very cool too, because it's like a family. It's something that the family kind of guards. It's not online. You can't find it.
Mm,
You can't just Google it and find it and listen to it. So the family will bring it on a USB drive to their events, but that's as far as it goes.
yeah.
And then we broke for lunch and came back and heard from Matt Dwinkler.
Yeah, so Matt from Titanic Honor and Glory, he's our executive director, and he talked so Kyle the day before talked more about the process of what it's like to be with our team and trying to recreate Titanic virtually. Kyle's main part of that job is recreating the actual structure and what that experience is like plate by plate, beam by beam. Matt is more overall research, interior design, stuff like that, and he has a set of deck plans which you can get online at I think titanicdeckplan.com. He has I would argue the most beautiful, detailed but still accessible Titanic deck plans. In fact, they're right here. That's what these are.
Yeah.
And you can buy them. You can get them printed out this big, or you can get just the PDFs on your computer. Very good resource to have. But he talked a lot about what it took to make these and how much work he and our entire THG research group, how much work went into making them, and that's always fun. And Matt, I think, is a great presenter. I think he's always got a good little sense of humor. So great presentation.
Followed by Don. Don Lynch had an hour where he got to talk about all of his dives to Titanic, which was, it's always, if you get to listen to Don talk about anything, I'd listen to Don read the phone book, but hearing him talk about his personal experience, like being in a submersible, sitting next to James Cameron, looking at Titanic's wreckage with your own eyes. Like,
Yeah,
can you imagine? He's
nothing better.
taken several trips. He sat next to Ken on one of them, I believe, and he tells the story often, and he told it on my podcast if you want to listen to my interview with him. But being down at the wreckage on 9/11 and being some of the only humans that were far away from the Earth's surface and coming back to a world that had changed, it's pretty cool. Not cool, but you know what I mean.
I use
And
the word cool too much. I have to stop myself. It's just it comes. I don't know where it comes from, but on my podcast, I say stuff like, "Oh, that's so cool," but I'm talking about such terrible things, and I really need to expand my vocabulary a little
I
bit.
think you talked about it once. People, or maybe it was LA Beatles, but like when people are like, "You're you're really into a disaster where a bunch of people
Oh
died,"
yeah,
that's
people
just
always
weird.
ask me that.
Yeah.
That's not that weird. I'll also say though, in the defense of the word cool, I've heard from a couple listeners of Witness Titanic who are English is their second language. People from over in Europe and people in Mexico, South America. I've got listeners everywhere, and English is their second language. And I've heard from more than one person that what I first heard was from all these people is that they like the way I speak because it's very easy to follow. I speak very clearly, and for them, where English is not their first language, is very helpful. And I thought, oh, good for me. But recently, one of them chose to say it this way. They said, "You use very simple words," and I was
Oh,
like, "Oh, wait, okay, that's an insult." Okay.
uh, side note, my wife's a professional singer and she would sing to the kids when they were growing up. And then one day I was singing to my daughter Everly and she was very young and she said, "Daddy, that song is yucky in your mouth." And I went, "Oh, okay.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thanks."
much.
The honesty of children. Well, the next
Yeah.
presentation was really, really cool. There's cool again. Amazing. And what an opportunity. I was very, very jealous of you for getting to sit down with these two.
Yeah, this was a highlight for me of the week, of the weekend. Yes, I definitely made sure because I had been trying to get Ken to come. We were messaging a lot about it, and anybody who's like a well-known Titanic person like Ken, uh, or Don, like it's not easy to come to these events sometimes. Like people are gonna like hound you for this and that, and it's just it can be uncomfortable and worrisome. And so just trying to get him to come, and I mentioned earlier that Steve Proto coming was helpful, that he could do a presentation with him. But this was the other thing, was what if I sat down with you and Don and we just did a Q&A? You don't have to prepare anything, just be fun. And he said, oh, that sounds good. And then, as anybody who was there for it. And I released the whole conversation as an episode of Witness Titanic. So go listen to that. I think it's episode 41. And in the episode, in the conversation, Ken turned to Don multiple times and was like, "This is great. This is like Q&A is perfect." Like, oh, Ken was just loving every minute of it. And everybody at the Queen Mary was so kind, and during the interview, Don mentioned how humbling it was that everybody had like a copy of Illustrated History under their arm, and like that book came out 30 years ago. Like, why do people still have it? And it's like, well, they came to get an autograph, like they oh, that's a great photo. I need that. They just they got to see people who are big fans of theirs. And then at the end of the episode, I noticed at the end of the conversation, while everyone was applauding, Ken leaned over to Don and said something, but I didn't hear what he said. And then luckily later I was editing the episode and I was able to zero in on it. And he just turned to Don and he was like, "This is really humbling, isn't it?" And Don was like, "Absolutely. Like it's just this is like I think they just really enjoyed it." And so kudos to everybody who came and supported them like that, which makes them all the more likely to come back next year. So yeah, it was a great talk. I had a real joy talking to them about it, and it was the only time I got to talk to them. I didn't get to. I've 2 years in a row now. I've been wanting to sit down with Don Lynch and just like say hello and get to know him, and that was the only chance I got, was on stage in front of a crowd.
Well, super cool. And now you
Yeah,
have it in perpetuity on your
yeah.
podcast as well. And that was really, really great to listen to. We broke for dinner, and then this was your idea, and I thought it was really cool. I had to take my daughter home, so I missed it. But you did a movie screening of the 1953 film.
Yes, we I really wanted to do some movie screenings. I wanted to do 2 originally, and do them like back to back, kind of a movie marathon. But again, we learned so much. Everything happened perfectly this year, and it really informed how we will do future years. I'm glad that most of that some of the things I wanted to do did not happen. And one of them was the double movie. By the end of the movie, like no one would have stayed for a second movie. We were exhausted. It was another long day. But yeah, also to screen a movie is like $500, and I was just like, well, we're gonna do one of those, I guess. And I really wanted to do SOS Titanic because it was filmed. Many of the scenes were filmed on the Queen Mary, so what a great connection. But I could never figure out who owned it, and I didn't want to be illegal and just screen it anyway. So we did 1953 Titanic, and I had never seen it before. So that was fun. And Don and Ken had both said in their talk earlier in the day that that movie was very big for them growing up falling in love with Titanic and stuff. So it was great. We had a really wonderful time as a group in the first class lounge on the Queen Mary watching Titanic. It was great.
Wild. Um, so then that brings us to day 3. We were jam packing them, but here we go.
Jeez.
This was going to be our chill day, just like our live podcast conversation day, and it was a lot more chill than the first 2 days, but some really fascinating stuff happening.
Oh yeah.
We started with the content creator roundtable, which was super fun. We sat down with people who are creating content and putting it out there. And we took a Q&A from the audience about what it's like doing this kind of work. And um, it was, I had fun.
Oh yeah, it was great. I wasn't even expecting to join for it. I knew I was going to be so stretched that day doing other things that I was like, you know what, I'm going to sit this one out. But I grabbed a coffee and there was an empty seat, and I was like, well, I'll hop on up. So I sat down and we had a really nice time.
I'm glad you did. That was your
Yeah,
seat.
yeah.
It was there for you. And then you talked about rediscovering Diana.
Yeah, did we jump right into that? Wow, I forgot all about this. Yes, me and Peter Harwell talked a little bit about the whole Diana Versailles rediscovery that we did during Titanic Expedition 2024. We did this talk last year on the Queen Mary. Um, and it was the event last year, as you mentioned in the opening remarks, was way smaller than this, and I didn't want to necessarily do the exact same talk again, but there not very many people were there to see it. And we had some new information that we could kind of add to it. We added more visuals. I had way more time to prepare this year. So we had a really nice time telling that story again, a story that we're all very proud of.
That brought us to our third survivor. Each day we had a survivor family member, and we got to hear from Shelley Binder, whose great grandmother, Leah Axe, escaped Titanic as well. And she told us the story of Leia, which she's told on my podcast as well. If you want to hear that, go ahead and find that episode with Shelley Binder. But we also enjoyed some Shelley flute playing. She's a
Yeah, we should
musician.
shout out Shelly. She also joined us for the concert the 2 nights before and played the flute and did this number. And that's sort of a lesson in I said I would get back to this earlier. Um, Shelly volunteered to be in the concert, and as I said earlier, as an organizer of this event, you never really know who's volunteering for stuff, and especially in my life of directing concerts and directing musicals and such, people volunteer to do stuff, and then the day comes and you go, oh god, why did I not vet this person or whatever. um Shelly said, I'd love to do it. And we brought her out and she did, it was fantastic. It's one of those things where she's performing and you're going, yes, this was a great pickup. I'm glad she volunteered and I'm glad we said yes. And then her talk was wonderful as well.
And she's just such an amazingly wonderful, heartwarming person. When you talk to her in person, people in the chat are saying she's amazing. We love her. Talking to her was so fun. And Seth says going through her documents, she brought documents, a binder
Mhm.
full from her great grandmother and that story. But just loved having her. I hope she comes back next year. We broke for lunch, and then this happened.
Ah, yes. This was the biggest event of the weekend for me in terms of logistics and how many things could go wrong. The concert was nothing. Like, people would probably think that singing an hour of music would be the thing I was worried about. No, that's easy. Um, but I wanted to do a live recording of Witness Titanic, and I wanted you to do, a live Titanic Legacy, and I want more podcasters to come next year and do their podcast. Like, it's fun to do a live thing in front of an audience. We don't usually get to do that. We're usually in our little tiny rooms, and so we did episode 40 of Witness Titanic. My guest, my witness of the event of that episode was Olaus Abelseth, and we had a wonderful time. And you joined me for that. You provided the voice of the senator and the interviewer, reporter guy. So it was just a great experience. And my only regret is that I didn't do like a little Q&A at the end, because I didn't realize how much time we had. I was so nervous about going over that I ended up doing it in like record time. And so, but that episode is on Witness Titanic in the podcast. It's also on the Titanic Honor and Glory YouTube channel if you want to watch it.
And I have great news for you.
What's up?
You can do it next year.
That's true. I'll do the Q&A only next year. No, next year we'll have to do another live Witness Titanic episode. I just don't know. I'll have to find a really good guest, a good witness, because I had a really good one this year with Olaus. So I'll save something good, maybe like an officer or something.
And following that was Sarah Brenneman, who you brought on board, and she chatted about, what was it, like the history of Titanic video games?
Yeah, it was a fascinating idea that she had. We wanted to bring. Well, first of all, we love Sarah. We've known her for quite a while now, and I've worked very close with her on some Titanic projects. She's an incredible researcher, writer, historian type. I know none of us like calling ourselves historians, but she's an encyclopedia, but of like ships as a whole, maritime history, not just Titanic. And she works for Mike Brady of Ocean Liner Designs, your friend, as always, Mike Brady.
Yeah.
And she writes a lot of his scripts. So when you watch a Mike Brady video, he's usually saying things that Sarah wrote down. So she's in a super valuable person to have at an event like this. And so we wanted her to speak. And she was so sweet. She was like, "Why are you asking me?" And I'm like, "Because you're great. You're really good." And she was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah." She's so sweet. And she came up with this idea to do a talk on the history of like video game recreations of Titanic. And she started way back, went through Adventure Out of Time, went through Titanic Honor and Glory history, and it was a very fun hour talking about a very strange corner of Titanic history.
It was fascinating.
Yeah.
For people like me who just don't even think about that stuff, or who maybe aren't gamers,
Yeah.
it was really, really fun to hear from her. And then I had the honor of closing out the last talk of Monday. And as James mentioned, I got to do a live version of this show, and very, very honored to be able to recreate history. We mentioned
Yeah.
already Laura Decker Ward and Shelley Binder as descendants who gave presentations about their relatives who survived Titanic, their grandmother and great grandmother. But one really cool thing is both Laura's grandmother and Shelley's great grandmother ended up in Norfolk after they survived Titanic, and a newspaper journalist tracked them down and sat them down next to each other on a couch and interviewed them about their experience on Titanic. And 75 years later, I had the opportunity to have them sit next to each other and talk about their ancestors' experiences
That's
on
so damn
Titanic,
cool.
on the Queen Mary. And Shelley disclosed that her great grandmother crossed the ocean on the Queen Mary at one point in her life, and so being on that ship and in that space was that was a real treat, and definitely one of the highlights of the weekend for me personally. Um, Tell us about dinner.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna cry. We had a great dinner. So, one of the things I wanted to do, if we're gonna do a live Witness Titanic thing, we knew a lot of Titanic Honor and Glory patrons would join us. I have my own Patreon for Witness Titanic, which you're welcome to join. But I wanted anybody who's a patron of Witness Titanic to come to the Queen Mary and let's have like a nice dinner. And it was either going to be we were just going to go to one of the restaurants that's on the Queen Mary, just ask for a table for 6 and sit down. But 50 people ended up coming. Like just incredible group of people ended up showing up for this event and for this dinner. And so we ended up renting a whole room. It was a whole catered thing, and everybody it was rather expensive per person, and everybody was like, no, it's no big deal. We were just so excited to be there. It was just everybody was so sweet, and I cried so many times from how lovely everybody was. So we had a great dinner, and then that led into one of the highlights of the weekend, which was completely last minute. We wanted the guys at Titanic Honor and Glory wanted to do something similar. They wanted to do something that was like the THG dinner, but we just didn't have the time, or no one really wanted to organize it, and I was just too busy focusing on my own stuff. So nothing ever happened. But there was this 2-hour block on the schedule that just was called THG, to be determined, kind of thing. And I think it was Matt who was like, "What if we just do a cocktail hour and encourage people to dress up, like wear something nice or wear something 1912 inspired?" And everyone showed up. We had drinks, and it was the perfect thing. Again, this all happened on accident. It was perfect that this really felt like the end of the 3 very long days of talks, and sort of like a blowing off steam moment of like getting to the weekend almost, because the next day was of course the big day, but there was nothing pretty much all day until the real time sinking. So it really felt like we hit the finish line, and everybody showed up, and we had drinks and got a little goofy, and then walked around the ship until the wee hours of the morning. It was the absolute best. We had a lot of laughs, so it was very, very fun. I don't know what time you went to bed, but I was up till like 3 or 4 or something like that. It was wonderful.
Come to Titanic Anniversary Weekend and have some drinks and get a little goofy.
Yeah.
That's gonna be the slogan for next year. No, that was so much fun, and you're right. There's like this natural ending of the weekend where it's like you, it's basically like Friday night, because the
Yeah.
next day we're gonna do the real time sinking in the evening. So most people have all of the next morning off to do whatever they want, and I love that because after all of the stress and organizational stuff through the weekend, having this is I'm speaking for myself because you you have the big real time syncing that night, but having the last day, the first half of the last day to kind of just enjoy the ship and walk around and
Yeah.
sit in a table and have a beer is it's a good end of the start of the fourth day, I should say.
Yeah, and it was perfect, again, unintentionally. We were all a lot of us who were at the happy hour or the cocktail hour the night before, and we're up till 4 in the morning having fun around the ship. We all saw each other the next morning at the coffee shop, and we all sat there with our coffees in silence, and just was like we were all like, this is the best. Like, I don't feel great because we had too much fun last night, but like what a great, like, I'm on the Queen Mary, there's a breeze blowing down the promenade, and I've got a coffee, and we've got a big event tonight, but that's a couple hours away. We're all just having a nice slow lazy morning is how it felt. And that is exactly what I wanted. But we and it that was not intended. It just happened to be that way.
And before we move into the end of the event, I want to shout out Gary DiNapoli, who was at the event all weekend
Greg,
with his art.
I switched their names on the Greg.
Yeah.
You said Gary.
I said Gary?
Yeah. And I said Greg when I was talking about Gary on the Queen Mary, and I've been embarrassed about it ever since. Well, it's very easy to do.
Honest mistake. Honest
Greg.
mistake. Greg
Greg
DiNapoli.
DiNapoli.
He's here. I mean, I've got one of his photos behind me, but check out his website, Greg DiNapoli Art. He's got so many amazing sketches of architecture, and oh, you've got one too.
I think I have the same one.
And Titanic, just beautiful, beautiful stuff. He's an award-winning pencil artist. Check out his work. He also designed the Titanic Legacy podcast logo,
Yes, he did.
and I appreciate him very much. And there he is in the chat. He says, "Call me whatever you want." Okay, Giovanni, calm down. Um, we got to the evening of the final day. It happened to land on a Tuesday. It's funny, we call it Titanic. Well, we called it Titanic Weekend as the event was the first year. Um, the 14th was on a Sunday. And so that lined up with the actual
Perfect.
sinking of Titanic. So, first year of it, Titanic Anniversary Weekend, it was actually on the weekend. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But, with the calendar, days creep ahead. And so now the 14th is on a Tuesday. And here we are at the memorial service, and we landed Tuesday evening, early evening, and we held a memorial service for all Titanic and Titan submersible. Um, Everyone we wanted to keep in our memory. We also, of course, spent some time honoring Ellen, who, as we mentioned earlier, was a part of the event the year before and so many Titanic events. And we all gathered, and we had switched rooms now. This one was called the
Oh gosh, which one is this?
Britannia.
Yes, this is the Britannia Salon.
And bigger
Yeah.
space to fit more people that could see a screen for the real-time syncing. But the memorial was great. We sang some hymns, and people shared their thoughts and feelings and memories. And it's always nice to kind of, that last day, have that memorial on the 14th of April.
Yeah, it was a lovely event the year before, and so there's no doubt we were going to do it again, and no doubt we'll do it again next year. There's just always it's and like you said, it's more than just the Titanic folks; it's the Titan folks. It's anybody that we've lost over this last year. I almost want there to be like a in memoriam that you might see at the Oscars or something, like Titanic people that we know and love who've passed. I mean, one of the someone had an RMST exhibit employee that I used to work with. She passed away like that morning, so it was just like, or the day before, and everybody found out that morning. A young woman who used to work at the exhibit in Las Vegas. Just people, we lose people every day, and it's just a nice way to sort of end the weekend. Of course, the big end is yet to come.
We had kind of a surprise last minute edition of Sam Pence from
Mhm.
the Historic Travels YouTube channel. And so he did a little live stream while you guys were setting up for Titanic Honor and Glory real time syncing broadcast. But that was fun to have him there doing his thing in the room.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of wonderful Titanic content people, and Sam's one of them, and Mike Brady. Everybody also knows. We did invite Mike as well, but Mike was not able to come a lot, and we invited Steve Hall if he's still in the chat. We invited a lot of people who are international, and just coming to the States is a lot, especially right now. Travel to the States is not easy. And so a lot of people had to politely decline, but yeah, Sam came out, which was lovely of him to do, and he did a little stream as well, and got everybody ready for the big event that started with with a few mishaps here and there, but the live stream started pretty much on time.
And it was, as it was the year before, just amazing to watch and be a part of in the room with everybody while you guys are hosting that.
Yeah. I have so many changes for how I wanna do it next year. This year was so frustrating. It was great. We had a great time. Everybody did a wonderful job. But, yeah, like this moment, at the end of the night, we, as the animation was coming to an end, or no, actually, it was when the ship disappeared. This is like 10 minutes later, and everyone's still holding their candles up. It was really lovely.
Mhm.
We had a great time. I mean, Jack Gibson, who does our animations, and the whole team that kind of works under him, just an unbelievable animation this year. So many new interiors. I mean, when the ship split in two, there was a shot in the grand staircase that just like blew me away. It was just so well done and so effective. And yeah, it's an unbelievable animation, and it was on its largest stage this year with this animation. But next year, I do have some little tweaks that I'd like to change to the live aspect on how we handle the live thing. So join us next year for the ultimate live real time syncing.
If you can't be there in person, be sure to be there on the YouTubes
Yeah.
for that. And wow, that was 4 days, jam
Yeah.
packed of Titanic love, enthusiasm, and passion.
And then we packed our cars. Did you stay the night? I think you stayed the night, right?
No, I had to be at a work retreat the next morning.
That's right. I also had work the next day, so we both packed up our cars, hopped in, and at midnight, maybe later, we had our long treks back home. We neither of us live near the Queen Mary. I mean, I'm an hour or so away, but um, so yeah, the weekend wasn't even over, but we got home, passed out, and recovered the next day. It was an unbelievable weekend. I will never forget it. And next year's going to be even better, but that weekend, the kind of the first big one on the Queen Mary, will always be very memorable. And shout out to the gentleman, I can't remember his name, I apologize, who carved up these guys for a few of us on the THG team. It's
Wow.
the Queen Mary seal that's on the Queen Mary. In fact, I think he stole this one from the Queen Mary and gave it to me, which was really nice. No, he carved this out, I think, with like a 3D printer, but this is like real wood. Oh no.
That means we've gone over an hour, right?
Yeah, that means we hit 60 minutes. So yes, one of the coolest things that I got from the weekend, from someone just unsolicited, just brought a bunch of these that he made and wanted us to have. Very kind.
That is awesome. And thank you to everybody who brought gifts in
Oh
general.
yeah,
Like,
it
so
was
many
so
people
nice.
just brought stuff and were like, I brought this for you. And I'm like, what? Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got a shout out to Gary DeLellis in the chat who says, Greg, Gary, both super hot. So I get how you get confused.
I
It's
get
all
it.
good.
Yeah.
I get it.
Great looking guys.
But I mentioned kind of, Loring Stead is in the chat too. Loring, hello, author
Hey,
and
yeah,
descendant as well, and was there. Amazing
that's
to
right.
see you here in the chat too. I wanted to say that we are immediately after we started planning for next year,
Like the
and
next day. Yeah.
and then we kind of got overwhelmed and haven't talked about it since. But we're about to hit the ground running again to make 2027 just amazing. And Gary DeLellis, who's here in the chat, has committed to joining us again next year. I got it right, Gary? Yes. And I'd like to share a couple of more, if that's
Yeah.
okay with you, James.
Go for it. Who's coming?
Judy Prestonisi is going to join us for the 4th year in a row of this event. Judy?
The applause.
Perhaps the staple also joining us for the 4th year and has already said, I'm going to be there. You can tell everyone. The legendary Don Lynch will be joining us. Very excited to have him back. And I mentioned her book being published. Her book's going to come out in March, and she's going to bring as many actors from the film that are in her book as she can in 27. And it'll be her 3rd year in a row. She told me just this morning, she said, after next year's event, I'm going to like lay low. And I was
Oh yeah.
oh, she's like, my life has been Titanic, but Miss Alexandra Boyd will be back with us in 27. And this will be our first new edition that we've announced for next year. So this is kind of a big deal. And I talked to her earlier today and got her full commitment. She says, unless something insane happens in my life,
Of course.
I will be there. We will have the pleasure of, you mentioned having podcasters there doing live shows is a lot of fun, and it'll be fun to host a live version of Unsinkable, the Titanic podcast with its host, LA Beatles. So, first of many first-time presenters at the event has been announced officially. So if you want to keep in touch and find out everything, all the details as they come along for 2027, of course, you can follow our channels on Instagram. We have a channel, a new Instagram specific to the weekend at Titanic Anniversary. You can follow Witness Titanic on Insta, Titanic Legacy Podcast on Insta. You can also sign up on the actual website. There's a Google sheet at titanicweekend.com. Just add your email on there for any updates. And of course, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, like the video, share it, spread the word, like Witness Titanic. If you're not already subscribed, head over to Witness Titanic Patreon as well. Check out all the things he has to offer you there. Thank you very much, James Penca.
I like in the applause, you can hear a group in the background going.
That old Arsenio thing.
Yeah.
Any final parting thoughts before we cut everybody loose?
No, just thanks to everybody who came. That was a life-affirming weekend of fun, and everybody was so kind. And I can't wait to see all our friends again next year, and all the new people who are going to join. And a lot of the other people who spoke have expressed interest in coming back. It's just it's too far out for people to really make any major commitments. And life happens, things get in the way, and while we do pay our presenters a little bit, it's not like we're giving them enough money to pay for their travel in a lot of cases. So a lot of these people are coming out to the Queen Mary at a loss to them financially.
Oh yeah,
that just goes to show how much they appreciate being there, and how much they want to tell Titanic stories. So big thanks to our presenters, to everybody who came, to everybody who helped us put it on. And gosh, I'm counting down the days till April of next year.
Yeah, that is one thing to mention, and it's in our efforts to keep like the ticket costs down, a lot of our presenters are coming out on their own dime, which it just shows the passion that they have. Staying on the Queen Mary is not cheap, and travel, as like you mentioned, is not cheap. So big shout out and thanks to all of our presenters and all of our guests that have joined us and hope to join us again. And again, for all of your work, James, that you did on this event, I thank you.
And I thank you.
It was just so much fun. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again.
And if you enjoyed this podcast, I already said that, so I'm going to skip over that part of the script. But do leave a positive review on your favorite podcast platform. It does help with visibility and the algorithm and all that stuff. Thanks to everybody for listening and tuning in. Until the next episode, seize the day, follow your heart's fire, and make each day count. Thanks so much, everybody.